The Shooting Range. This is a special episode. As many of you may have noticed, we've been making the show for a little over a year now. It's been quite a ride, and we are really glad that you hopped on board. It's only fitting that for the 50th episode of the show, we do something slightly unusual, an episode that is as much about you as it is about us. Well, let's do it. In this episode, the longest hotline, the developers answer questions about their work, life, and fast food, and the War Thunder Veterans Club, the best wartime stories as told by the members of our community. Don your military uniform or holiday attire. Get yourself a cigar or two. We're coming to the Venerable Veterans Club, a place out of time where young daredevils with fiery eyes meet grizzled old-timers to tell each other stories of their cruel, crazy, lovely lives and recall the battles of yesterday. Let's hear the best tales, and we'll do our best to recreate them. The first story tonight comes from Valdian 76, a young stern man in the jacket of an Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service pilot, ARB, Palelu. After 20 minutes of intense dogfight, 3 kills up my belt. The last enemy aircraft runs away. A is already gone to the enemy forces. B will follow in a matter of minutes. My last teammate is refueling at the base. I have to take down this guy. I fill the air with 7.7mm machine gun rounds, hitting him hard. Parts of his wings start coming off, his rear gunner going crazy on me when suddenly, click, click, click. No more ammo. I didn't get to come back to the base after the fight with the enemy fighters. A lone, badly damaged dive bomber was sitting right in front of me, the last wall between our team and victory, and I couldn't do a thing. The enemy bomber stops wiggling and his gunner starts focusing. A bullet goes right through my fuel tank, lighting it up on my left wing. That looked like the last nail in my coffin. Then I realize I'm in the legendary A6M20. The bomber starts turning to land and repair, its pilot waiting for my imminent death, probably laughing at his lucky strike, only to see a ball of fire closing in on him. Oh, you think I'm done? I push the throttle to the max, dive for a second, taking some speed, then putting the nose right up towards the crippled bomber, and in my biggest war cry, slam my aircraft into his. I stand up from my chair, my arms up. As the result screen shows up, victory. I certainly brought honor to my family this day. After the Japanese members of the club finally stopped shouting and stomping their feet, that took some time to put it mildly, we moved to another story, this time from a dashing British tanker that goes by the name of Games with Warcraft. Tank RB. Me and a relative were playing British Valentines in an abandoned factory. We had gone south into the train depot areas and encountered a couple of tanks. We took them out, but then my relative had to go AFK for a few minutes. So he parked his tank in a bush by one of the depots while I promised to do my best to protect him. But sadly, after a few tanks had come along at once, they managed to take me out. What really confused me though is how a total of 4 tanks rolled straight past the rather obvious Valentine tank still alive in the bush. One even turned his turret directly toward him, and when met literally no reaction from the Valentine, continued on his way. In the end, my relative survived the whole battle and did not return until just before the game ended. Then we get to the first report from the arcade theater of war from a tank commander Sandwiched, who is known for his devil-may-care attitude. Advance to the right, domination, the 3-cap point mode, tank arcade battles. Our team spawned in the south. Recently spaded my M18 Hellcat and was loving its speed, so I selected to spawn in the southeast point, thinking I'd zoom over to the nearby point and cap it as early as possible. When I spawned, I found myself facing in the perfect direction, and as close to the cap point as I could possibly have spawned. Reaching the point within seconds had a crazy thought. What if I zoom right past the point on our side of the map and go harass the enemy tanks capping the equivalent point on their side of the map in the northeast? So I did just that. But instead of finding a few enemy tanks at their point, I find a point entirely devoid of enemies. Zooming inside, I began to cap their point. After a few seconds, I saw an enemy tank slowly lumbering its way into the road leading to the point, so I shot him. I think I completely startled him. he stopped driving towards the point and instead turned into the demolished buildings for cover. By then, I had fully capped their cap point, and a few of our faster tanks had followed me to the area and were laying down covering fire. The enemy team was so confused about what had happened that they lost all their coordination and the match within minutes. Well, the early bird catches the worm, as my old CEO used to say. Next one to speak is a German officer, Benjamin Salmi. This occurred a long time ago, at least a year and a half or so. I was in my Panzer IV-C, the map was Poland, and I casually made my way towards the objective. I randomly shot over the town and glanced at the clock in my room. I looked back and I saw that I had landed a critical hit on an M2A4. That's not even the craziest one. After people have stopped arguing about luck and probabilities, Mr. Spuka 2000 stood up and said calmly, "My craziest story is getting my dad into gaming and having made over 1,200 hours in War Thunder. That's 50 days! Say cheers to your old man, but he's always welcome to Veterans Club. Hell, with a record like this one, he's probably one of the founders." Next story, told by a daring pilot called Kaira 2, is not about luck or combat prowess. It's about something much more important. One time I was flying my Bf-109E1 in ARB and I was trying to kill an F-82. During a very low altitude maneuver, I saw a friendly Bf-109E1 approaching from 3 o'clock high. I thought it was going to be a close encounter, but it was too close. The poor guy in the other 109 got killed immediately while I lost 1/3 of my left wing. Well, I thought, this is the end of me. And then a revolutionary idea came to my mind. Extend the flaps. The 400 km/h airspeed coupled with the extra lift I was getting from the landing flaps made sure I would make it back to the base. But as I was approaching the airbase, I spotted a blip on my radar, an F-3F. It came as close as 650 meters and I was a sitting duck. I didn't know who was flying that plane, but I'm incredibly thankful that he showed some courtesy and didn't fire. I would have been the easiest frag ever, yet he chose not to seize this opportunity. I made it back to the base and successfully landed. Thanks, random pilot. Then a scarred veteran stands up, his face awash with grief. His name is Mac Ghost 47, and he's ready to recollect on one of the most tragic stories we've ever heard at the Veterans Club. Sad story. 5 kills in RB, and a mouse fell on my mouse. And then another mouse fell on the other one. The 3-mouse tower. When the last man in the room stopped sobbing, those were manly tears naturally, we're ready for the last story for today. The narrator is a hulk of a man of a Mexican disposition. He's aptly named Killer Mexican 210. I was flying my B-17G in an RB match like I usually do. But while I was flying alone to bomb a base, an enemy MA-262 died from behind me. I quickly tried to drop my bombs, but the 262 was quicker. He managed to shoot my right wing off, and I was spinning towards Earth. But like the narrator in the War Thunder trailer, "The battle is on," says, there's a beast deep inside you. It will not die, it will fight back. And fight back I did. As I switched to gunner view, I could see the 262 climbing away, and I started to spray him with what I could with the 50 cal turrets. As I began to think it was hopeless, I managed to pilot snipe the 262 pilot as he was climbing away. That's the spirit that wins battles, buddy. That's the spirit. Finish your cigars, or don't since we're not your COs. And get ready for the non-traditional take under traditional as part of our show, Hotline. Developers answering questions from the comments. More specifically, some bloke called Kirill Yudintsev. Yeah, that one.
Hello guys, my name is Kirill Yudintsev. I am creative director of Gaijin Entertainment and War Thunder, and now I will read your questions and try to answer.
JT Rec asks, how did you guys come up with your company name? Also, what motivated you to make video games?
Wow. That's a short question with a long answer. When we started our company, we have different options to choose from, and that was the most convenient, the shortest one, something that you will pronounce easily at least. We also respect Japanese games that times a lot because we wanted to make a console games, and those times significant amount of console games were developed in Japanese. That's second reason. And we are not Japanese, we are Gaijin. That's Japanese word means foreigner. So we are foreigners for Japan, that's why we are Gaijin. As most of developers, we played the games a lot and we wanted to make our own cool and maybe better or different games, and that's why I think it's the answer for 99% of all game developers.
Then there's a question from Silver Butt. May I work at Gaijin's War Thunder department?
If you're high skilled, experienced and interested in making games and played War Thunder a lot and share some common values, and then it's probably possible, why not? But it can depend on other things. So come and work with us.
Dedicated Dog writes, what is life like in the office? It is full of glory of the motherland?
Of course. Why you ask?
Next question comes from Sim Elas. How much of your budget goes to researching and implementing Russian bias?
The answer can be different from 100% to 0%, depends on how you want to treat us.
FireRate233 asks, why is your logo a snail?
A snail is an ancient symbol of goodness that defeat evil. Ancient, I mean at least Middle Ages symbol. That's one reason, and another reason is that a snail symbolizes willing to get to the target, to the goal, to finish the way. Well, you know, snails are not usually that fast as we are, but they are very devoted to their way, to their path.
Jacob Wolp has another question. How many programmers are working on this game?
Well, about 20 something, maybe 30 something.
That's not the last question about the workers. FiUW asks, how big is the War Thunder development team?
At least more than 130.
A player with a rather long but great sounding name, Achilov Mohammed Amin, writes, hey Gaijin, how much time do you need to create a new model for the Italians and the PB4Y2, for example?
Well, I don't know about PB4Y2, but usually bombers and attackers requires more time to create, and average time is about 3 months for a plane, about the same time for a tank, and a bit more, or maybe not a bit, 3-4 months for a ship. For Italians it took at average much longer because of lack of documentation and difficulties with it, so sometimes it took a year for some of them.
Eric Bishton writes, how do you guys decide who gets to work on which planes? Are there ever fights about who gets to make their favorites?
Most of our team are really interested in aviation, in military vehicles. So when you're interested in some big thing, you probably will like not one plane or tank. You will find something interesting about any vehicle, and at least hundreds of them will be your favorites. So they're not fights. Sometimes people prefer to make an exact model, but they're not fights because you just can get another vehicle that you like.
Tiger Timon is interested in our day-to-day work process. What is the average duration of a meeting of the War Thunder team? Do you do stand-up meetings?
Yes, we do stand-up meetings. The average duration of stand-up meeting is about 15 minutes. That's not stand-up meeting for whole War Thunder team. It's stand-up meetings for different parts of different teams inside War Thunder team, because otherwise we will take a day long to discuss anything. Stand-up meetings for small amount from 5 to 7 people in a team.
Deskais also has a serious question. How many devs does it take to screw in a light bulb?
I think that's not a problem for developers. We are software developers, so screwing a light bulb is a problem to our IT guys.
Cookie wants to know, how do you guys, the War Thunder team, make money?
It's a good question. I don't know. Somehow our players like to, spend some money probably to help us in development, or maybe they just like the game and want to share their emotion with us.
Lyle Kirsch is thinking along the same lines. If someone screws up a vehicle model, are they sent to the Gulag or just executed?
Well, we send it to the Gulag and then execute. Probably sometimes we first execute and then send to Gulag, so it depends. And sometimes we just play balalaika and drink vodka with our bears.
The Killer Chop writes, "What? Your voice is so beautiful, sweet as a rose." By the way, what do you guys do in your free time?
We have a big team and different people do different things. Most of our teammates are somehow in the sports, in the games, things like that. And of course with the family.
Nothing escapes the notice of the player called TL Gaming reactions. Hey Gaijin, I couldn't help but notice that you uploaded episode 18 of the shooting range twice. How did that happen? Oh, that's actually something that we can answer. It was an elaborate ploy to a carefully calculated plan to moving to the next question. Mugpop asks, what is Gaijin's favorite food? Shashlik?
Well, of course not snails, so shashlik probably will be a good answer.
Jadbo is even more specific. What is your favorite type of Mexican food at the office?
Nachos, I guess. Not much of chili con carne or fajitas in the office, so nachos will be a good answer.
Burnt cheese just needs some kitchen guidance. Gaijin, what is your favorite recipe for some good compote?
Generic recipe for compote is take fruit, sugar, boil it with the water, and that will be good compote. So depends on your choice of fruit.
Nuclear Atmosphere is getting philosophical. Why is food off someone else's plate always better than your own?
Well, I think it's some psychological question. Do not know details. Good question.
Then there's a question from a player called Art of Free Speech. Just to be sure I'm doing things properly, what are the proper adult beverages to consume when playing each respective country's vehicles?
Soviet vehicles probably vodka, of course. For German vehicles, I think schnapps or maybe beer. Britain, I think British ale will be a good choice. For Italian and French, you probably go with the wine. Chianti will be, I think, best for planes. For American, I think you should go with the whiskey, bourbon. Japanese should go with the sake. I'm not very original. I never thought about this before.
Not the Gerd is probably right. Gaijin, I found your secret. When you call artillery strikes and tank battles, artillery comes from space. It's the space battleship Yamato, right?
Well, not Yamato, because Yamato has too much caliber size, so it's a smaller battleship in orbital, flying around.
Hi, I'm the boy has an urgent question. Gaijin, can you please point me to the restroom?
Depends where you're located, but for you, wherever you want.
Tactical Toast writes, who's the narrator guy? All we know about him is his voice. Well, my name is Sean, also known as Pups Arcade, and I'm a commentator for War Thunder. I'm also a narrator for the Shooting Range and Thunder Show. I'm also a co-producer in Thunder Show, among with other people. And I'm an occasional live streamer. I play tabletop games. The one about man in power armor. Let's just keep it at that. So, yeah, this is it. What else do you want to know? And I don't eat cheese. Never, ever. Luke Skelton is also interested in Sean. I mean me. When did you get asked to narrate for the Shooting Range? And do you like waffles? That happened about over a year ago, as I previously mentioned. I was doing some other projects for War Thunder and Igramania, and they were like, would you like to do this? I was like, fine, let's do it. And yes, I do like waffles. Smarty Voy asks, how do you guys come up with the ideas for each episode of the Shooting Range, and how do you decide on what topics to choose? We have a special procedure. It involves monkeys, wrenches, some elements of Olympic fencing, and a really big turnip. Stone Crescent writes, hey Gaijin, I was wondering specifically who hosts and edits the Shooting Range. I didn't see you guys credited here on YouTube, and after a year of making these videos, I think you deserve some recognition. Keep up the good work. Thanks, mate. Well, you already heard a bit about me, and there is a whole team of other people who work on this project. They write texts, edit them, record footage, eat turnips, you know. It won't be fair to name just a few names, and we would take way too much time to list every single person. Just know that we, the folks at the Agromania video team, are damn glad that you like what we're doing. That's it for today and for this landmark episode. Now let's make another 99. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you on the shooting range.